In a bustling Atlanta restaurant, a billionaire father watched his 16-year-old son, who used a wheelchair due to cerebral palsy, light up with joy as a waitress named Keisha Thompson invited him to lead a dance during a quiet moment. The simple act of kindness, born from Keisha's warmth and intuition, touched the father in a way he hadn't expected. What he did next, a gesture rooted in gratitude and vision, would transform not just Keisha's life, but the lives of countless others in ways no one could have predicted. Thomas Hargrove, a 48-year-old real estate magnate, had built a fortune developing luxury properties across the Southeast. His wealth afforded him a life of privilege, but his greatest focus was his son, Ethan, whose cerebral palsy required constant care and attention. Ethan was bright, with a quick wit and a love for music, but his physical limitations often left him on the sidelines of social events. Thomas had spent years searching for ways to make Ethan's life fuller, from cutting-edge therapies to adaptive technologies, but moments of genuine connection for Ethan were rare. Keisha Thompson, 29, had worked at the Blue Magnolia, a popular Southern restaurant in downtown Atlanta, for 3 years. She was a single mother to a 7-year-old daughter, Maya, and juggled long shifts to make ends meet. Keisha had a gift for connecting with people, her warm smile and quick laugh putting even the grumpiest customers at ease. She'd noticed Ethan and Thomas before. They came to the restaurant every few weeks, usually on quieter weekday evenings. Ethan always ordered the same thing, fried chicken with mashed potatoes, and he'd him along to the jazz playing softly in the background. On this particular Tuesday in October, the restaurant was nearly empty. Thomas and Ethan were seated near the window, finishing their meal. Keisha had been their server, chatting with Ethan about his favorite songs and teasing him gently about his love for extra gravy. As she cleared their plates, the restaurant speakers began playing a lively Motown track, one of Ethan's favorites. His face lit up, and he swayed slightly in his wheelchair, tapping his fingers to the rhythm. Keisha noticed and grinned. "You feeling that beat, Ethan?" she asked, setting the plates aside. Ethan nodded, his smile wide but shy. Without hesitation, Keisha stepped closer. "Want to lead a little dance?" she said. "I'll follow you." Thomas looked up, surprised. Ethan's condition made dancing impossible in the traditional sense, but Keisha didn't seem fazed. She stood in front of Ethan's wheelchair, swaying to the music and mimicking the movements of his shoulders and hands. "You're the boss," she said, laughing. "Show me what you got." Ethan, emboldened by her encouragement, moved his arms more confidently, directing Keisha with gestures. She twirled and stepped in time with his movements, turning his limited motions into a dance. For 3 minutes, they moved together, Ethan leading and Keisha following, her laughter filling the room. Thomas watched, his throat tight. He'd seen Ethan smile before, but this was different, a moment of pure, unself-conscious joy. Other diners glanced over, some smiling, others recording the moment on their phones. Keisha didn't seem to notice or care. When the song ended, she gave Ethan a high five. "You're a natural," she said. Ethan beamed, his usual reserved demeanor replaced by a rare confidence. Thomas was quiet as Keisha brought the check. He thanked her, his voice softer than usual, and left a generous tip. But as he and Ethan left the restaurant, the moment stayed with him. He couldn't stop thinking about Keisha's instinct to include Ethan, to see him not as a boy in a wheelchair, but as a person with something to offer. It was a kindness Thomas hadn't seen often, even from people paid to care for his son. Over the next few days, Thomas couldn't shake the image of Ethan's joy. He'd built an empire solving problems with money and strategy, but this was different. Keisha's gesture had cost nothing, but had given Ethan something priceless. Thomas wanted to do something in return, not just for Keisha, but for others like her who saw potential where others saw limitations. He started by reaching out to the restaurant's owner, a longtime acquaintance named Carla. Thomas asked about Keisha, learning she was a dedicated employee with a young daughter and dreams of going back to school. Carla mentioned that Keisha had once talked about wanting to work with kids, maybe as a teacher or therapist, but finances and time had always been barriers. Thomas decided to act. He contacted Keisha through Carla, inviting her to meet at his office. Keisha was nervous, unsure why a billionaire wanted to see her, but she agreed. When she arrived, Thomas was direct. "What you did for Ethan," he said, "meant more than you know. I want to help you achieve your goals, and I want to do something bigger, inspired by you." Keisha was stunned. Thomas explained his plan. He'd fund her education, covering tuition for a degree in occupational therapy, a field she'd mentioned to Carla in passing. He'd also provide a stipend to ease her financial strain, allow her to cut back on shifts and focus on her studies. But that wasn't all. Thomas wanted to start a foundation to support programs for kids with disabilities, focusing on inclusive activities like music and movement. He asked Keisha to help shape it, drawing on her natural ability to connect with people. Keisha hesitated, overwhelmed by the offer. She wasn't used to being seen, let alone given such an opportunity. But she thought of Maya, her daughter, and the chance to build a better future. She agreed, with one condition. She wanted to keep working at the Blue Magnolia part-time. "It keeps me grounded," she said. Thomas respected that. The foundation, named Ethan's Joy, launched 6 months later. Keisha worked closely with Thomas and a small team to design programs that paired kids with disabilities with mentors who encouraged creative expression, dance, music, art, anything that sparked joy. Keisha enrolled in a local university's occupational therapy program, balancing classes with her shifts at the restaurant and her work with the foundation. She excelled, her professors noting her empathy and drive. Ethan became a regular at the foundation's events, often leading music sessions with his infectious enthusiasm. Keisha was there too, guiding kids and parents with the same warmth she'd shown Ethan. The programs grew, attracting attention from local schools and community centers. Thomas funded adaptive equipment and trained staff, ensuring the foundation's impact reached beyond Atlanta. Word of Keisha's story spread, especially after a video of her dance with Ethan went viral. News outlets picked it up, framing it as a story of kindness and transformation. Keisha shied away from the spotlight, but Thomas and Ethan were happy to talk about her impact. "She saw my son," Thomas told a reporter. "Not his chair, not his condition, just him. That's rare." Keisha graduated 3 years later, earning her degree and a full-time job as an occupational therapist. She continued working with Ethan's Joy, helping it expand to other cities. The foundation partnered with schools to create inclusive after-school programs, and Keisha trained mentors, drawing on her own experiences as a mother and caregiver. Thomas remained involved, but he gave Keisha and the team room to lead. He'd learned from her as much as she'd learned from him, about seeing people for who they are, not what they appear to be. Ethan, now 19, started college, studying music therapy, inspired by the programs his father's foundation had built. Keisha's daughter, Maya, grew up watching her mother's journey. She became a volunteer at Ethan's Joy, teaching younger kids to dance. Keisha often thought about that evening at the Blue Magnolia, how a spontaneous moment had changed everything. She didn't see herself as extraordinary, just a woman who'd seen a boy's love for music and given him a chance to shine. The foundation's impact reached thousands, from kids who found new ways to express themselves to families who felt seen and supported. Thomas, Keisha, and Ethan stayed connected, their bond rooted in that one evening when a waitress and a boy in a wheelchair danced to Motown. It was a reminder that small acts of kindness could ripple outward, changing lives in ways no one could foresee.